Welcome everybody. So what happens when we create a user by adding the command, let's say user add, and then we can type in the name of the user, maybe user. Now this user gets created, but it does not have any password associated with it. We can do that by typing in password command and then the username which we want to have password set on. So once we set the password, it used to go into a file which was etc and the name of the file was password, and it spelled the same as this command passwd. Forgot about this line that I put in. Let me just remove this one. So passwd, and this system used to work for a long time. This password in this file, it used to have looked like a hashed value of the password. Of course, we could not see the actual password. It was hashed in, but still the password was saved in this file. Now in later distributions of Linux, it does not happen that way. What happens is that there is another file in etc folder by the name of shadow, and this shadow file contains the passwords against the users which have been defined on the system. Similarly, we can have passwords files for groups as well. Yeah, that is kind of surprising for you guys if you are hearing for the first time that even we can define passwords on the groups as well. So now let's just go ahead on the terminal and let's see what are some of the fields in the password file and in the shadow file and how we can manage some of the characteristics of these files. So I'm here at my Ubuntu box, and if I do a cat and then or let me just show you first the file permissions of this password file, because this is also very important to remember that this etc and password file, it is readable by everybody, but only root has got the access to change the contents of that. And it's because if somebody wants to see what is the home directory or maybe what shell has been given to a particular user, then he may be able to do so. If I type in cat and password and press enter, we see that we have got multiple username. Some of these usernames are actual users on the system, but other username that you are seeing, the very first I would say the section of the line or portion is the username. So for example, we have a root username, we have a daemon, we have bin, sys, and so on and so forth. But most of these users are system users, and they have been assigned a shell as well, which is bin false. It means that they are regular system users. They have been created by the system itself, but nobody can log into the system using these usernames because their shell is false. And also, if we have a look at the password of this file, which we'll see in a while, this second field, this X, this is a password field. In earlier days, it used to have a value of hashed value over here, a long value of hash, but now it's just X. And what this X means is that go and look into the shadow file. So we'll see that these system users have a unique style of password so that nobody can get logged in using these accounts. But if I come down below, I see that this is the username, which is myself, and this is the user ID uniquely for me, and this is my primary group ID. And I'm saying the word primary because a user might have been a member of multiple groups, but the primary group is printed over here. Then this comes my username that we can create, not the username, the complete name of the user. So we can create by using the flag -c when we are trying to add the user. This is my home directory, and this is the shell that I have been given. So just remember that the password file itself, it does not contain the password, rather it is referencing to the shadow file. So let's have a look at the shadow file now. And if I type in shadow, then we should not be able to see it because I might not have the privilege to even view the shadow file, which we do. We see that it has given us a permission denied error, and let's go ahead and use the root privileges to view this file. I press enter, give in my password, and this is the shadow file that I was talking about. Now let's come up and the username, the system username that I was telling you about. You see this star, or sometimes we have this exclamation mark. This means that the account is logged. So this is a special kind of password which locks the account and nobody can get into the account using this username. If I come down to my username and we see the password, which is a long string of numbers up till here, this is hashed value of my password. And in earlier versions of password file, this password used to be printed or available in the password file. But now that is not there. Now it is made available in the shadow file. Now this next number, this one, this 16897, this signifies that when was the password last changed. So this, you cannot make sense out of it because it is a kind of cryptic that how they have defined it, but you need to remember it that this is the number of days starting from 1st of January 1970. So if you count the number of days starting from 1st of January 1970 and you add these many number of days, then you will reach to somewhere in 2016. And in 2016, when I changed the password, which is maybe a couple of days back, you will get this value, which will, it's kind of cryptic how they say it, but there is a command that we can see that how we can do that in a normal human readable format. And so the next number, this is 0. It signifies that how many days should be elapsed before a password change for that particular user can be granted, or before a user can change his or her password. So this 0 means that there is no restriction. I can or he can change the password at any time that he wants to. This next number, this 5 9s, it means that after how many days the user is required to change his password. So this is really a long number, and it is hundreds of years. Now this number 7, this is kind of a reminder that before the expiration of the password, like these many days, this after let's say this is 7 days, so it would mean that after elapsing of 99992 or 99,992 days, there will be a warning to the user that you should better change your password, and it will keep on reminding him for the next 7 days. After 7 days, if he or she does not change his password, his account will get locked. Now these last two fields, this one over here and this one over here, this field, this last one is the deactivation time, and this one is the number of days between the expiry and the deactivation. So for example, if a user account gets expired after 999 days, then we can give him, let's say, 2 more days, and if that account does not get activated again, or his password does not get refreshed, then it will be deactivated after, let's say, further more 3 days. Now most of the time when we create a user, these values we do not change because really there is no point to change it. But if you want to change it, then there is a better way to do it, and that we can do using the command which is change or change age of the password. And the syntax is, if I type in, let's say, sudo and change age, AGE, this is the command. And let's say if I want to see these settings, these values which are related to aging of the password of a particular user, let's say myself. So this is the listing, and this is for that particular username. Now this is saying that actually the password was changed on April 6th, 2016. So if you subtract these many days from this value, you will get 1st of January 1970. And the other values that we see is that password expires never, password inactive never, password account expires never, and the minimum number of days between password change is 0, this value over here. And then we see that maximum number of days between password change is penta 9, and also the warning that we have seen over here. So we can change these values. For example, let's say if I want to make this password inactive, I can define the number of days. If we do a manual of change age, we see that if I bring it down, we see that minus I or minus inactive. This sets the number of days of inactivity after password has expired before the account is logged. So let's try to do that. Let's try to change this value to something maybe minus I in, let's say, 10 days. Now once that is set, if I do have a look at it one more time, I also need to set in the maximum number of days that should be passed before password get expired before the after the last password change, so that this inactive flag that we have just defined here, it takes into effect, because it has to have a reference value of when to get the account inactivated. Of course, it will be inactivated when the password gets expired. So let's set that value as well. Let's type in sudo and change minus capital M. Let's give it a number of days 20 after this value when the password gets expired, and the user is Ahmed. So let's do that, and now let's check the status. And now we see that the password expiry date has been set to April 26th, and the password inactive that we had defined earlier, that it should be 10 days after the expiry date, which is this one. Now this usually happens is that once the password gets expired and a user, he tries to log into a machine, then he will get a warning that your password is expired, you need to change it, so that he will change it by himself. But if he does not get logged in within, let's say, 10 days, then his account will become inactive. And similarly, we can define when the account gets expired. The syntax is pretty simple. We just need to type in sudo and afterwards the command, then minus E is the option for expiry of the account. And afterwards, let's just say that the account gets expired on January 1st, 2020, and the username after that. And if we have a look at the details now, we see that the account is supposed to be expired on 2020. Now, once we have set these values, and let's say I want to set this value back to never, then we cannot type never, but we can type indeed -1. So let's change these values back to never. Let's just have a look at it. We see that it has been changed to never. Earlier it was January 1st, 2020. And likewise, the other flags that I had changed, which was one was -M, which was the number of days before expiry. And the last one was the inactivity. So apparently all these three values now should be changed back to never. Also, let's change this M value back to 999 as the default of most of the systems. So now it has come back to the original values. Now let's go ahead and see the contents of this group file that I told you about, which is etc and group. If I press enter, and again the contents are pretty simple. If you have got the idea from the earlier files that I told you about, these are the groups that are defined in this Linux operating system. And we see that in this case, let's just first come over here. This Ahmed username, it is part of its own. This is the name of the group, and of course I am myself. I have created this user. When I created it, this group was created, so I am part of that. So there is no need to write username Ahmed after this colon. Like over here, this user Ahmed. Now this is not the group. This is the user. This user Ahmed. It is part of Samba share group. Likewise, I'm also part of printing services, and I'm also part of plugin devices, this sudo group, so that I can execute sudo commands. I'm also part of CD-ROM. So if I'm part of multiple groups, or maybe multiple users are part of the same group, maybe there are Tom, Dick, and Harry, which are all member of this Samba share group, then they will also be written in front of my username by delimiter of comma. We also see this value of X, which again signifies the password, and it means that we need to go and look into the password file for groups, which is cat etc, and this time it's gshadow. Now again, this file has got restricted access, so I might not be able to access it. I need to use the root privileges to access this file, which I do. And if I show you the field of the password, which is the second field, we see that it is all exclamation mark. And normally this group passwording, as I mentioned earlier, that this is normally not used in the environment, but if you want to use it, you are very welcome. If you have got certain requirement that passwords need to be set on the group basis, you can do that. And the command to set the password for the group will be gpassword. So we use that command, and let's see if I type in Ahmed to change the password of the group Ahmed. So once I do that, the password will be set on group Ahmed. With that, we come to the end of this topic, and I hope you have liked the video, and I'll see you in the next one.